welcome you to today's live session. I recently passed the AWS Certified CloudOps Engineer SOA-C03 exam. In fact, I did the exam just this gone Saturday, and I got my results on Sunday, because normally they would take up to 5 days to give you the results, and I passed, and I'm very pleased about that. I've previously done the SysOps certification twice. And now, obviously, because the SysOps has changed to CloudOps, I thought I'll give the CloudOps a go and take that exam as well. Okay, so whether you're an aspiring DevOps engineer, sysadmin, CloudOps practitioner, this certification opens doors to automation, observability, and operational excellence. And it's the cornerstone. These areas are the cornerstone of modern cloud engineering. So we'll go for around 30 minutes, and I'll leave the last 10 minutes for any Q&A, anything you want to ask about the exam and stuff like that. So feel free to drop into the chat at any point in time. So let's get started. So obviously, like with any kind of meeting or live event, probably a good idea to give you a quick agenda about how this is being structured so that it becomes easier to, see exactly what we're talking about. So I've done the introduction, so that's over. So we'll move on to why the CloudOps certification actually matters in 2025 and beyond. And we'll break down the official exam guide. And I won't go too much in depth into it purely because it's all there for you to read upon. But I want to highlight the key important areas that I think you need to focus on if you want to take this exam. And I feel that there are 7 hands-on focus areas, 7 top areas that you really need to, build your understanding of knowledge in and actually get some hands-on experience in if you want to take this exam. We'll talk about troubleshooting mindset, question strategy, and practice exams, and I'll briefly cover those. And then I'll talk about some learning paths that you have and areas where you can get some resources. And then we'll do a closing session where we'll do a Q&A if you have any questions that you want to share. So why does this exam actually matter in 2025 and 2026 is because you've probably heard of the term of the fact that you need to keep workloads reliable and cost efficient. You need to automate daily operations confidently, and you want to be able to troubleshoot issues in real time. So in fact, you also want to enforce security and compliance as well, right? So those are some key areas when you have any kind of workload that you're hosting in the cloud, whether it's production workload, even dev environments and test environments. You want to make sure that they're reliable, cost efficient, because businesses are otherwise going to complain, that you are able to automate daily tasks and various operational tasks confidently and efficiently. You want to move away from manual intervention and manually fixing things all the time, because it takes a lot of effort and it actually reduces productivity. You want to troubleshoot issues in real time as and when they're happening before they turn into a big problem, and you want to enforce security and compliance. And it seems to me like the CloudOps certification is leading itself more to that of a role of a site reliability engineer. At least that's how it seems to be working towards. Now, site reliability engineering is all about automating, monitoring, and operational stability. Okay, so a site reliability engineer is an IT professional who combines software engineering skill sets and systems administration to build and maintain reliable, scalable, and efficient software systems. At the end of the day, we're all in a position where we have to support applications because businesses are only concerned about applications. They don't care about the underlying infrastructure. They don't care if you need to upgrade a server to the latest operating system or you need to add more disk to your storage. They want the application to run maximum uptime, minimum downtime. And that's where site reliability engineering comes into play. And I think that's why AWS have moved from the traditional systems operations, systems administration role to a CloudOps engineering role. And perhaps maybe they should have even called it a site reliability engineering certification. And maybe they might do that in the future. Okay, they might have a site reliability engineer certification in the future, who knows? They certainly have a DevOps professional engineering role and a certification for that. I think site reliability engineering is really what they need next. So if you're serious about managing production workloads efficiently, then this certification is going to put you in a position to do really well in 2025 and beyond. And so let's talk about the exam domains. So I'm going to briefly cover the exam domains. Again, the link is there in the description box below, and in the resources section, you've got access to the full breakdown of all of the tasks that you need to be able to do as a CloudOps engineer and what you're being tested on in the exam. So the 5 domains are logging, monitoring, logging, analysis, remediation, and performance operation. And that takes 22% of the scored content. And it's domain 1, and it's probably the most important part of this exam. This exam is going to test your knowledge and how you can use tools like CloudWatch, EventBridge, CloudTrail, Config, all of those different tools to manage, monitor, and maintain systems. And so you really want to deep dive into these technologies. Domain 2 is all about reliability and business continuity. Think about how we can manage disaster recovery situations and how we can move away from, experiencing major outages. And we've all seen, particularly over the course of the last couple of years, various outages with various big organizations. We had, the really scary incident with, security issues at Microsoft, for instance. So we had issues with, those updates that were not going through well and stuff like that. So maintaining systems reliably is really important. And how we continue with our business, how we perform business continuity is critically important. Then there's deployment, provisioning, and automation. And really, to me, when I took the exam, I realized that automation played a really, really big role. Okay, you want to automate your tasks, your troubleshooting, your remediation, all of that stuff. You want to automate it. Security and compliance is another critical area environment. You want to make sure that all of the systems are secure and fulfill any compliance requirements. And then obviously you have networking and content delivery. I had quite a few questions just within networking alone. And I think networking plays a fundamental role when you want to work as a CloudOps engineer, because it's one of the foundational elements of how applications can be accessed, how packets are traversed over the net, whether that's internal networks, between an on-premise establishment and the cloud and your VPCs and so on. So it's definitely, it's got 18% in terms of the scored content, but there were quite a few questions on networking and content delivery as well. So let's talk about those 7 areas that I believe you need to focus on if you want to take this exam. Right off the bat, top of the list is CloudWatch and CloudTrail. These 2 technologies play a fundamental role in a CloudOps engineering role and even in a site reliability engineering role. So some of the things that you need to focus on is understanding metrics, being able to build dashboard. What are composite alarms, log insights, and anomaly detection? You want to practice creating alarms that trigger remediation action with EventBridge and Lambda. So make sure you're learning about how EventBridge works, how it uses the default event bus and the custom bus, and then how you can integrate that with a tool like Lambda to be able to automatically remediate stuff. So within the CloudWatch space, obviously understand the fundamentals of CloudWatch, metrics, logs, and how to generate alarms and to be able to use those alarms to send out notifications, but also learn about some of the other more advanced tools like CloudWatch RUM, okay, real user monitoring. And it's a service that collects and analyzes data from real user interactions with your web application to help you monitor performance and improve user experience. Another tool that you can use with CloudWatch is Synthetics. This is a service that will continuously test your endpoints and APIs using automated scripts. So we call them canaries, and you use them to monitor application availability, latency, and functionality. This is a major part of the exam. You need to spend a lot of time understanding these core services of CloudWatch and make sure you understand some of those advanced tools as well. You have all these different resources that will ingest data into CloudWatch. And so CloudWatch plays a really important role for a CloudOps engineer, but also for you to prepare for the exam. All of these metrics and the alarms that you generate from it can be used to send notifications to endpoints, be they email endpoints or HTTPS endpoints, or whatever the endpoint might be, an SQS endpoint, whatever the case might be. And then in addition to that, in addition to obviously capturing all of these metric information and all of this data, you want to automatically fix potential issues before they actually hit the service desk, before they actually become part of an incident in your ITSM tool. So you want to incorporate things like Event Bridge, which will monitor all of the events that are taking place across your ecosystem. And you want to send any of those events that seem problematic or potentially leading to an issue to tools like AWS Lambda to be able to fix those issues before they become into a big situation. Learn about custom event buses, learn about default event buses. And also EventBridge comes with a scheduler. So it's not just responding to events as they happen, but you can schedule events to take place. So 5 p.m. every day, we need to capture a lot of log files and we need to archive them, or we need to update a database. So whatever the case might be, take snapshots of our EBS volumes, for instance. Those are some of the things that you will be doing as a CloudOps engineer. And so these are some really vital tools for you. The next tool or the next service that you need to focus your attention on if you want to take this exam is the AWS Systems Manager service. Now, this service comes with a range of different tools: Session Manager, Run Command, automation documents, which are called SSM documents, to manage your resources like EC2 instances without logging onto them physically and doing all that SSH stuff, right? You want to be able to automate a lot of the tasks using the run command, for example, and using those SSM documents. You want to learn how to apply patches and gather inventory across your instances. And the tools that you want to learn about if you want to prepare for this exam are things like automation, patch management, parameter store, run command, session manager. There was even a question on distributor. So make sure you really understand this as well for the exam. Session Manager allows you to remotely access your EC2 instances without using an SSH client, but there's also the EC2 Instance Connect tool. And make sure you know the key differences between the use cases of Session Manager versus the EC2 Instance Connect tool. That's a little tip. The third set of services that you really want to understand and learn about if you want to prepare for this exam is CloudFormation and infrastructure as code. I spoke about automation and automating the build out and deployment of your infrastructure. CloudFormation is the best tool there is within the AWS ecosystem, but obviously there's tools like Terraform. So if you're already working with Terraform, you're in a good place. But using CloudFormation and Terraform are really vital to a CloudOps engineering role. And for the exam, you do need to understand CloudFormation. So you need to understand things like stack policies, drift detection, troubleshooting failed stacks. I had at least a couple of questions on that alone. Understanding how to prevent rollback, to preserve resources for debugging. Okay, that's another really important aspect of the exam. So within CloudFormation, you got things like stacks, templates, chain sets. You need to understand what are stack sets, what are nested stacks, what are rollback concepts, and how to, like I said earlier, prevent rollbacks to preserve resources for debugging purposes. Because as a CloudOps engineer, that's what you're going to be doing in the real world. So make sure you understand the template anatomy. So that is things like all of the parameters, resources, mappings, transform, outputs, and all those different areas and structures of the CloudFormation template. Get some practice in actually building out CloudFormation templates, because you're likely to see some scripts in the exam as well, and you need to be able to know where things go. Okay, let's talk about the next important aspect of the exam, and that's high availability and fault tolerance. So with high availability, you need to have hands-on experience with auto-scaling, load balancing, and multi-AZ deployments, and you'll be tested on that. You need to be able to practice simulating failures and watching recovery mechanisms work. And for this, there's a broad range of tools to be aware of and to get hands-on experience with before you take this exam. So obviously EC2, auto-scaling, rolling out instances across multiple availability zones for the high availability element. Things like what are placement groups? That's an important aspect for the exam. AMIs, how do you create them? How do you manage them? Are AMIs regional specific? Something you need to know. Networking, IP addressing, security groups, they play a really important role to making sure that everything works smoothly. Also, with this version of the exam, there is more emphasis on containers. Okay, so that's starting to come through as well. And make sure you understand different storage services for your network, for your compute services. So we got ABS, EFS, FSX for Windows. Interestingly, there were a few questions there as well. Amazon S3 is going to be an important part in almost every exam that you take from the AWS certifications. So pay attention to things like object lock, S3 replication. Learn how to troubleshoot S3 replication between cross regions. Load balancing plays an important role for a CloudOps engineer and for the exam. Make sure you know the difference between the application of, or where you would use application load balancers versus network load balancers. Databases, so know about multi-AZ, multi-AZDB clusters, replicas, where you would use them, where you need to ensure high availability versus read scaling, that kind of thing. And then also obviously learn about Elasticache and the difference between Redis and Memcache. The next one is operational excellence and cost optimization. Make sure you understand Trusted Advisor, how it works. It's more than just a reporting tool to tell you where you could make improvements on. Cost Explorer, there's going to be at least 3 or 4 questions just on cost management alone. So make sure you understand that. What is Compute Optimizer? Make sure you read up about it. Know how to interpret recommendations and act on them. And so with Trusted Advisor, make sure you understand the different checklists. Also know, is Trusted Advisor a free service, or do you need to be subscribing to something else to be able to use Trusted Advisor? Cost Explorer is really critical. There were at least a few questions on that in the exam. Make sure you understand what are cost allocation tags and how they're useful for managing your costs. Compute Optimizer, AWS Config is another one that's tested on this exam. CloudTrail most definitely tested on this exam. And also, I was quite surprised by this, but even the AWS Help dashboard. I thought the AWS Help dashboard was just a cloud, the foundation exam. It was just tested in that, but oh no, it's tested in this exam as well. Next is the AWS Organization Service, Control Tower, and Service Control Policies. Now, this, I believe, is a new addition to this exam. So when in the SysOps exam, maybe it wasn't so much of a focus, but in the CloudOps Engineer exam, it's definitely a focal point. So make sure you understand how to create organization units, accounts, and governance policies. Make sure you learn about service control policies, how to enforce security and operational guardrails across multiple accounts. Understand Control Tower blueprints for automated and compliant multi-account setups. And when it comes to obviously AWS organization, what is an account? What's the management account? How you create OUs? How do you apply service control policies? What layers do you need to apply service control policies at? Those are all important elements for this exam. Obviously, without going any further, without saying any further, you've got to understand IAM. So make sure you understand IAM users groups roles, MFA tokens, that kind of thing. And also make sure you read up a little bit about Control Tower as well. In addition to that, you want to know about the different security tools like WAF and Shield. So make sure you understand the application of where you would use Shield versus where you would use WAF. And then the AWS Security Hub, which is something that is also covered in this exam, as well as the key management service. Make sure you know the difference between encryption in transit versus encryption at rest. And also try to read up a little bit about how you would troubleshoot KMS issues. That might be something very useful in the exam as well. The seventh area that I think you should really focus on is network and content delivery. So understand VPC subnets, routing, NAT gateways, security groups, network access control lists. Network access control lists are stateless. Security groups are stateful. make sure you understand what it means when we say network access control lists are stateless. What additional configuration is required when you're configuring those? Practice DNS routing, health checks with Route 53. Route 53 is going to show up in the exam without a doubt. So make sure you understand the different routing policies and where they're applicable. Get some hands-on experience with CloudFront distributions. Actually build out a CloudFront distribution. Think about the security of CloudFront distribution so that you can see how it works, as well as the caching strategies. And learn how to design network and content delivery and how they impact availability, latency, and security. So when it comes to VPCs, make sure you know about all of these different tools. So peering, NAT gateways, network access control lists, how to set up VPN connections, endpoints, where they're useful. What is the purpose of using an endpoint versus using a NAT gateway? Make sure you understand what are VPC flow logs. There's definitely a question there, a potential question there. And then obviously VPN gateways as well. CloudFront, like I said, make sure you definitely read up on it. Make sure you try and practice using CloudFront. Route 53, Resolver, Route 53 resolvers are very important because you got to think about the fact that most cloud engineers work in a hybrid model. So they'll be supporting on-premises environments as well as cloud-based VPC environments or even multi-cloud environments. The transit gateway, okay, is something that you definitely want to read up on, and how to troubleshoot certain areas of transit gateway. And so those are clearly important as well. Okay, so when it comes to actually tackling the exam, I found this exam much harder than the solutions architect exam and the developer exam. And I think you need to be really careful when it comes to things like how you understand the question. You want to make sure you don't rush through it. You want to read every word carefully. Flag questions that are just not making sense. You come back to them. Obviously, don't run out of time. Look out for key phrases in the questions like most secure. So that means it's prioritizing encryption, or I am least privilege, or private networking. Least operational overhead. So many questions to get you to choose an option where it was the least operational overhead. So think about managed services, automation, serverless. Most cost effective. So consider services like using reserved instances or saving plans. Highly available, multi-AZ, multi-region designs with Route 53. Scalable solutions. Think about auto-scaling, load balancing, event-driven architectures. Fastest recovery. So you have focus on backups, restoring strategies, or failover mechanisms. Sometimes backup will take longer to recover because of the RTO element, whereas you might want a different strategy to quickly recover. Okay, so have a broad understanding about these concepts. And easiest to maintain. You'll have to choose options which are easier to maintain and reduce manual intervention. That's another key area to focus on. Okay, so that pretty much is, a broad area and explanation about, how you need to prepare for this exam. When it comes to actually, resources that are available, definitely consider using the wide range of resources that we have. So you got Skills Builder. Skill Builder is a really cool tool. There's a free edition of it and a subscription edition of it, but it's something that you definitely want to consider using. If you haven't used Skill Builder already, you're definitely missing out. It's got a free element to it, which gives you access to a lot of content, labs, and exam prep material. And then when you subscribe to it as well, it gives you access to extended learning pathways, video courses, practice exam questions that can be really, really useful. There are other training resources. Obviously, there's my own platform, which is the iisacademy.com. You can visit that. I've got lots of free videos available, as well as on YouTube, which gives you a lot of practical hands-on experience. There's Udemy. A lot of my colleagues and other instructors are definitely on Udemy. So they have a lot of courses for the CloudOps engineering certification. Take a look at those. And then obviously there's Coursera. I tend to use Coursera as well. I find Coursera really useful. So you may want to visit that and check it out as well. Also, you definitely need to practice exam style questions. There is no doubt about it. So you've done all of your studying, you've done all of your revision, but unless you actually start practicing with the questions, You wouldn't get a feel about how it's going to be in the real exam. And the one resource that I honestly swear by is Tutorials Dojo. It's got brilliant questions that you can use to help you prepare for the exam. Definitely check that out as well. It's a really good resource for you to practice with, exam style questions. And it gives you a lot of answer explanations that you can go through and understand why you got a question wrong, why, you answered a particular question, it shows the incorrect option. It gives you a breakdown of all of the answer explanations there. And it's a brilliant resource to use when you want to practice for the real thing. Okay, so that's pretty much it. A quick synopsis about what the CloudOps engineering certification is all about. A breakdown of the 7 areas that I think you really need to focus on, which I think if you do, you'll definitely be able to ace this exam. And obviously, if you do the additional revision, studying, and practice exam simulation, then you should have no problem clearing this exam. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to open up the Q&A. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put that into the chat. I'll be glad to help out. We'll spend about 10 minutes doing Q&A, and then we'll close off. So a quick question. Am I planning to release a course based on this cert? Yeah, I am, definitely. I've currently got the Solutions Architect course, which is an extended course that focuses a lot on building real-world skills on my IIS Academy platform. But yes, I will be releasing a CloudOps engineering course as well shortly. So thank you for that question. Where can you get the slides? Okay, I wasn't intending to put them on, but I'll tell you what, I'll do that for you. On the YouTube channel, once this is completed, I'll share a link for the slides. Thanks, Amir. I've just added anyone else that was waiting in the waiting room. Again, if you've joined late, don't worry. This is being live played on YouTube Live, so you can check out the video as soon as we end, and the entire thing will be available. Okay, I'm a beginner, so what course do I want to do first? Well, if you're an absolute beginner, definitely start with something like the Cloud Practitioner. The Cloud Practitioner is a really good course to get you started in understanding the fundamentals of AWS and its plethora of technologies and the cloud in general. So I'd definitely start with the Cloud Practitioner course. Okay, good question from Kiran there about how the questions are structured. So they are only multi-choice and multi-answer formats. Interestingly, I'd taken the AI practitioner exam a few months back. In that one, the multi-select questions, you had to choose from 3 options. Now, wasn't normally the case. In this exam, it seems to be the case where you got multi-choice. So out of the 4 options, you select 1, and then multi-select out of 5 options, you select 2. I didn't see any that were like you had to select 3 options. There certainly were no lab style questions. I think AWS stopped doing that. They might bring that in the future. But for the moment, it's just multi-choice and multi-select. Okay, just looking at a few more questions that's coming in the meetup chat. Sure. For practice, how many credits will I need generally? Let's say I want to try. Okay, so that's a good question from Sonham. Thank you very much. So as you know, AWS have changed their new account setup. So we used to have something called the free tier before, which basically meant that literally all you need is a new unique email address and you can create a free tier account. And you would have different thresholds to use different services like EC2, you could use 750 hours a month and stuff like that. That's all being changed. We now have what's called the free plan and the paid plan. I've got another video on my YouTube channel that you can get the full details on. But essentially, with the new free plan or even the paid plan, you get $200 worth of credits, and you can use that to carry out various lab exercises. Now, for the purposes of studying for any of these foundation or associate level courses, you are going to be able to consume those credits, obviously. And as long as you make sure that you terminate all of your labs and all of your exercises at the end of your training, then you won't be using too much of it. Most of the courses will only end up costing you maybe $10 to $20, maybe $30 and you'll still have plenty left over because you can get up to $200 worth of credit when you sign up for a new account on AWS. So check that out. Check out my video on the YouTube channel. It gives you a full breakdown. When you sign up, you actually get $100, and then you can carry out a few small tasks, about 5 of them, to get extra $20 per task. So you can collect a total of $200 worth of credits to help you prepare and carry out various labs and do a lot of experimentation work in your AWS account. Okay, I'm just reading through another question. Okay, there's a good question here about where should I take my exam? Should I do the online proctoring or should I go to a test center? So I've been doing corporate training programs for various organizations for the better part of 7 years. I personally prefer to take my exam at a test center, but most of my students take it online. Okay. I think it's just a personal, I don't know if it's a personal fear or doubt. When I take it at home, I feel like, okay, I might lose my internet connection, but my students have proved me wrong. Okay. Most of the folks that I've trained seem to be doing it online and do it just perfectly well. The only thing you need to you need to be aware of when you do it online is that it's an online proctoring exam. So someone's going to be at the other end of the webcam to see your room. And so you need to make sure you clean everything up. You need to make sure that there are no, books and papers and things like that lying around. You have a clean desk. You do not get interrupted during the exam time. And ideally, if you can connect to your router over a wired cable as opposed to Wi-Fi, even better. But if you can get all of that stuff done, then doing it online is perfectly fine. And you can definitely do it online as an online proctor rather than going to a test center. So that's my take on that. I hope that's helpful. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All right. So I've actually got five certs as of now. Yeah, I've got 5 certs as of now. I need to renew a couple of them in order to get back, and then yeah, so that's where I am. Okay, all right. So if there are no more questions, then we'll call it the end of the day. Thank you, folks, for joining on the Meetup group. And thank you, everyone, for whoever's joined in on YouTube Live. Obviously, the video is available if you need to refresh and go over the concepts and the key points that we spoke about earlier with regards to the areas of focus if you're preparing for the CloudOps engineering exam. I'll see you folks in the next one. Thank you.